Today's Tuesday, November the 12th, and welcome to IGH Going Rogue. We're exactly a week after the historic win, the beatdown that Trump gave the Democrats and their crazy ideas. And like I always said, Democrats need more psychiatrists in politics. In order to break it down and talk about everything that's happened in this last week, it seems like it's been a month at least. We have Scottie Nell Hughes. She's an international journalist, political commentator, analyst, and she was a 2016 Trump surrogate. Scottie, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. And you're right. I think Bare Naked Ladies could not write, needs to rewrite their 1 week since you laughed at me. I think they could rewrite that song because there has been a lot that has happened in a week. I almost feel like we've got more accomplished within the Republican Party within a week than they've done the last 8 years.
At least. I'm going to say, you know what? The next 4 years, Trump is probably going to accomplish what the country hasn't accomplished in 20. He is starting fast. He is starting very aggressive. I mean, let's go straight into the picks. Who do you like the best?
Well, there's a difference. I want to separate exactly what we've heard since almost the day after Trump got elected. I mean, the first day out, the first thing he announced was this 250-year birthday celebration of the United States. Excellent idea. Nothing unifies a country that's so divided like a party and a birthday party. And he's not only focusing in Washington, D.C., it's in Iowa, it's in California. It's everywhere is going to be a part of this 250th birthday celebration. And it doesn't matter if you're Republican, Democrat, Libertarian. If you care and you truly love America, this is something that you can unite behind. That was his first initial piece of legislation. Bravo to Donald Trump for putting that out. Then after that, he started rolling out, like you said, these very aggressive measures. So on one hand, we have probably the most ambitious, aggressive, anti-bureaucratic, I call it almost a cannonball / wrecking ball of what we have in Washington, D.C., of the Beltway today that has just been announced day after day after day with these policies going from tearing down, and I know we'll focus on this over the next 45 minutes, but from tearing apart the Department of Education to going through and saying that it's going to be universal gun carry laws across the United States, all those things he has put forward. But then he got to his picks. And his picks for going into his cabinet. And this is on the heels of Mitch McConnell saying that, yes, he's still going to be in the Senate for the next 2 years, but he no longer wants to be majority leader. So who's going to be the majority leader? Well, that caused all sorts of controversy. And we have Rick Scott out of Florida, who I like. He is definitely good. Hasn't always been the most conservative, but of all the three, he's probably the one that most identifies with Trump agenda against Senator Thune, Senator Cornyn, and this big drama that escalated out of that. Because of that vote happening on Wednesday, I think that is why we are seeing a lot of the leaks / names being circulated out there for Donald Trump. And Ivan, I got to be honest with you. I'm going to do something that probably not the smartest politically to do because guess what? I'm really not good politically savvy when it comes to playing politics, but probably just my honest heart in it. I am not one of those that's fully thrilled with all of his picks for his cabinet. And I have to wonder, is Tucker Carlson, I know Elon Musk is in Mar-a-Lago, but is Tucker and Tulsi and Vivek and Donald Trump Jr., I know Trump Jr.'s there. Are they all on vacation? Did they decide to take a break thinking Trump would as well? Because some of these picks have me kind of scratching my head. Probably not been the most Trump, pro-America first, pro-conservative agenda that there could be for these slots.
Give me a name. Who do you not like?
Okay. So I love Susie Wiles. I think Susie's amazing. You cannot get more loyal to Donald Trump than Susie Wiles for chief of staff. I think she is incredible.
She's awesome. And by the way, on that point, you know, do you have a few words for Mark Cuban, by the way? Because I happen to believe, and I think everybody knows that you're a very smart, strong woman. So, you know, what are you doing on this side of the aisle?
Well, I'm going to go against what they're saying. They're trying to, and I give credit to everybody who got Donald Trump elected, but I think that they're doing a strong disservice to the women of America because just like in 2016 when we kept Hillary Clinton out of the White House, I believe it is the women who defeated Kamala Harris. And I said it from day one. It wasn't going to be the men to defeat her because men were going to always be labeled sexist. It is the women. And I'm not just talking about one sector of women, white women. I'm talking about Asian, Indian, Black, Hispanic, white, all women. We're the reasons why Kamala Harris is not in office. And let me tell you why. Because if it really was a good candidate, we would have united behind her and we would have gotten her elected. America is not a sexist country. There's still some definitely issues that we have in this country, like with multiple demographics. But we are not sexist. We are at a place that I believe we could elect a woman president of the United States, but it has to be the right one. And we're not just going to be sold this bill of goods that we only care about one issue. We actually care about everything a man cares about, probably even more, a little bit intensely, a little bit more micro than men do. And we're going to get behind the right candidate regardless of what her gender was. And just like Hillary Clinton wasn't, neither was Kamala Harris.
Totally agree with you. Totally agree with you. And Susie Wiles, I think that's an awesome pick. First woman chief of staff ever. She's fantastic. She obviously ran a very good ship, with the campaign. Did we lose her?
I'm not sure. That looks like it.
I think we might have lost her. Let's see. But, going back to that, Susie Wiles was great, and the rest of the cabinet too. I mean, look, Marco at State, I think is fantastic. I think we got her. All right, let's bring her in. There you go. You're back. I thought we lost you for a second. I was just talking about some of the other picks, like Marco Rubio at State. I like Marco. The border czar. That's my favorite. I got to say, that's my absolute favorite. That guy is a badass.
I love Tom. I think Tom is absolutely perfect for it. Kash Patel for CIA.
Yep.
But once again, let's think about this.
Well, you know what? I read today that it's between Kash Patel and Ratcliffe. So that'll be interesting to see who wins that battle, right?
But once again, these are all leaks that are coming out. And we have to talk about whether this is being done on purpose to distract from the majority House vote that was going on right now in Washington, D.C. Because trust me, conservatives, there was a call put out and conservatives answered in favor of Rick Scott to defeat Cornyn and Thune. I'm wondering if this is potentially being put out there to distract and put the conservatives back down on this. Because like I said, there's some names on here that I think we would have some conservatives would prefer to see. I think we've got a lot of war hawks, a lot of neocons, and that's exactly opposite of what Donald Trump talked about on the campaign trail. The question is he setting us up for a very, very conservative Secretary of Defense? I am a huge Tulsi Gabbard fan. I was a fan when she was in Hawaii, even though she was a Democrat, but I am a huge Tulsi Gabbard fan when it comes to her foreign policy. And I think that potentially all of these neocons that they have put on there, I mean, like I said, I love Marco. I think Marco would be amazing on domestic issues, but he is very much a part of that neocon, not to mention he was a part of the Gang of Eight that went and voted to open our border. And we could have defeated this whole immigration issue back in 2012 and he did not help us with it.
I mean, we talked about the whole Gang of Eight and Marco and the vote and, you were up in arms. You were up in arms back then. I remember that.
Well, exactly. I talked to him right before he went out on the floor and did his vote. I said, "Do not do this, Marco. You will be our nominee in 2016." This was before Donald Trump was out. I said, "You will be. You are the prince of this party. If you vote with them, you're done."
I remember that.
The Tea Party elected you, and you need to honor your promise to them. He didn't, and he got put on the sidelines. But I will tell you, I was at the Doral rally that Marco Rubio spoke at.
Yep.
And it was I almost was like, what is Trump doing? He was trolling Marco so hard that I was like, he has to promise him something, because if not, this is so insulting. Because he keep going, hey, so what do you guys think of Marco? Should I make him my vice president? This was before they knew JD Vance.
Yeah.
And, the crowd was mixed in their response to it. Oh, come on, Marco would like it. Marco, I didn't like it. Like, he was so trolling Marco Rubio right there in front of his face. It was a complete roast. Yeah. I almost felt bad for Marco. Like I said, I like Senator Rubio on multiple issues, on 90% of the issues. I do not like him on necessarily the foreign policy issue. Anybody that voted for a penny to go to Ukraine, you're not what I consider should be in a position of Secretary of State.
So talk to me about Tulsi.
So Tulsi's always been one of those who I think she's got the military resume that she can actually be. I think she's as a colonel in the reserves. She's got the military resume to do it. I think it'd be amazing to have. Like I said, we're not a sexist country. To have the first female Secretary of Defense, and I do believe that you need somebody that has been in combat. that has seen what it's like for an American soldier or an airman to be in a foreign zone to be Secretary of Defense. I am so tired of having
And
these.
she's done numerous tours as well, right?
No,
So
you were just
it's
seeing
not
what war,
bullshit. It's not just paper. It's real. It's
right.
legit.
You've seen what war looks like. And let me tell you, I don't know, Ivan, probably when you and I first met 12 years ago, my children were 3 and 4
Yeah.
years old.
Yep.
I think,
They're
well, see, we would have
little.
met 10 years ago. So, yeah, so now, no, they would have been 8 and, okay, so they would have been 7 and 8.
Yeah.
Now, my son turns 18 in January, and I have said for the last 2 years, my sole goal for everything I say, everything I do, is to make sure that my son and my daughter and their friends do not get put into a horrible position, into a horrible war that has nothing to do with American security, like my parents' generation did with Vietnam or Korea. I do not want it to happen. That's been the sole reason why I've kept my voice out there instead of going and doing something else. Is I've wanted to prevent, and that's why I started doing the international side, because I wanted to make sure the truth about what America's intentions were. And so it is very important to me, for the Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State, that we have people that do not look at our children like G.I. Joe figurines, as so many in Washington, D.C. do. In fact, I would like, Ivan, as Trump is being very ambitious, I do believe that any congressman or senator that signs a bill that sends the military into a war zone, that their family goes first. Because then they might be so callous with our soldiers and with our families, and they put their family on the line first.
That's a great point, by the way. All of a sudden it makes it very real for the people voting. It makes it very real. And we did this back in 2020. And not to go back and really peel the onion back, but I kind of have to do this, and so we can move forward on the results, right? There's millions and millions and millions of votes that didn't show up, and they said this is the most what do they call it? Attended elections in history, massive turnouts, this and that. And all of a sudden, that's right, Trump actually improved on his numbers. He got 75 million votes, right? He won the popular vote. But what happened to the 81 million people that voted for the basement guy?
Well, I am a fan of the Bible, and I'm a fan of the book of Revelation, and I do believe we're living in some part of it, but I don't believe that there was a rapture that took away 11 to 15 million American votes, and you and I get left behind. There's no doubt. You can't look at what happened in 2020 and see all of the different, just the different numbers that are coming out. I mean, come on, mail-in voting alone, we were going to know was not going to be a completely legitimate service line to an election. From the mail-in voting to the, you can't tell me that when they counted the Georgia votes, that every single military vote from across seas went for Joe Biden. Every single one of them in Georgia. Yeah. Come on now, folks.
Look, it was a scam. It's got to be. I mean, there is no way. I remember I had the Secretary of State of Alabama. I can't remember his name right now, but a solid guy. And we were talking about this during the summer of 2020, about the dangers of this mail-in ballots. And he said, look, it's very easy. He goes, the mailman comes in, drops off ballots. Billy Bob is right behind him in his pickup truck, and he's pulling them out, and he goes, and you're going to see massive, widespread cheating. And the Democrats are known for cheating, and it's going to happen. Nobody believed it. Nobody thought it. Look, remember when we were talking about the flotillas, when we did the, when we did the caravan around the Beltway in Washington, we had that loop all the way around the Beltway, back to back, car to car. It was massive. The boats, the rallies, tens of thousands, 50,000 people. And this guy couldn't get 10 reporters in a socially distanced room. He couldn't get anybody at rallies. It was a joke. He was hiding in his basement, didn't know where he was, didn't know who he was. And he gets 81 million votes. It's impossible. It's an impossibility. And everybody said this is going to be a massive red wave. This is going to be a slaughter. Remember, we thought Trump was going to win huge. And you know what? And he did. If you think about it, he went from 66 million to 74 million. That was huge. And they credited that to this massive mail-in ballot situation. But look at the election this year. He got 75 million. There wasn't this massive mail-in ballot, situation. And what happened to the Democrats? She got what, 69, 70 million?
Well, if he was such a massively popular president, it's funny because Joe Biden didn't even last to be reelected to be the
Yeah.
most popular president ever elected. Listen, the information, just the numbers don't add up. This dog don't hunt. Take whatever old cliche that you know of, and you recognize that it does not work in comparison to 2020. And I think if you want to actually know the truth, it's not hard to figure out what exactly went on. That being said, hopefully what that did do, and we talk about the Great Reset as
Yeah.
from being something that's so bad that the right's going to do. Actually, the left did it. The Great Reset was it woke people up. It woke the Republican Party up so that this election they had lawyers
Yeah.
ready to go. They had poll watchers at every single spot. They made sure that the secretaries of state were put on notice that they were going to be watching them in states like Georgia, that you better do what was right. And you saw that happen. I mean, that's what helped save Georgia going blue. I laughed. I'm here in the South. And when they told me in 2020 that Georgia went blue, I thought they were joking me. I thought that was something from The Onion.
Yeah.
Because there's no way if you drive through the state of Georgia, outside of a little band in Atlanta, they are more overwhelmingly were Trump fans in 2020, just like they were in 2024. So what it did is it reset the Republican Party, that those conspiracy theorists, they better be listening to them because they weren't conspiracies, and they better put in the safeguards to make sure that what happened in 2020 didn't happen again. And so I credit a lot for, thank you, liberals. The other thing that liberals did, which I find is funny that nobody really talks about, they tried for the last 3 years to keep Trump so enveloped in courtrooms, in judgments, in these very much biased judges and the juries and all of that stuff. And what they were doing is they were actually sabotaging themselves, because the more that they harped on it, the more people realized that, hey, why do they want to take him out? Why are they targeting him? Maybe he is something right. There is something right about him that he's being targeted. They're the ones that kept Trump's name in the headlines every single day for 3 years.
Well, they made him a martyr, right? They made him a martyr. He was obviously politically persecuted. We haven't seen that in the United States. I mean, you see it in third world countries all over the world, and never here. And it was happening, and it was happening, and it was real. You know, every case was timed perfectly to make sure he was taken out of the campaign trail. And and it was really about having that narrative that he's a convicted felon, trying to bankrupt him, bankrupt his companies, and destroy him personally. And it just made him stronger and stronger and stronger. But there's something about the left that is this dangerous, Scottie, is their narrative, their tone, and then they try and gaslight us and say that we're the ones instigating violence. When you remember the baseball game, there was a Bernie Sanders guy. The attempt on the president, that was some crazy kid that apparently was a big anti-Trumper. The other guy at the golf course, everything has been withheld there, and so we don't know, but he seems like he was a kook. But then they say, we got to tone down the rhetoric, and then they start going, they double down, and they say, we have to defend democracy. This is the end of democracy if he wins. He's Hitler. He's a fascist. He's like Stalin and Lenin and Mao and Marx. How do they get away with that?
Well, I saw this great. So there's been so many amazing. I think the day after the election, my favorite thing was going through and just looking at all the montages and the memes and just social media. You wanted it, social media gave it to you. Almost as entertaining as watching The View the next day. But there's one that I found to be interesting is they went through and they replaced every time a liberal said in the mainstream media said the word democracy, they replaced it with hypocrisy or bureaucracy. And it was so accurate. It was the bureaucracy. And it just exposed what the liberals that they've tried to gaslight America for all of these years. The reality of it is this time, because you had alternative media like this, like the podcast. I mean, we cannot go through without talking about how powerful people like Joe Rogan, Megyn Kelly, all of those, the podcasts, they literally made more of a difference today. And I think that's what we saw the next day. It was the grieving because the mainstream media realized they did not have the power anymore that they once did.
Isn't that amazing? Joe Rogan, Megyn Kelly, what a comeback she has made, man. I love her. She's awesome.
She speaks the truth. But I always say with everybody, we always have to look back and recognize, especially going into, and this is where it comes full circle back to Trump's cabinet. Trump's policies he has introduced are so ambitious. And having been out there and having had to defend them and fight for them for all of these years and stand up to some of the fiercest debaters, including J.D. Vance. I laugh because I debated J.D. Vance in 2016
really? Oh, wow.
multiple times. I understand the heat that they're going to bring. I mean, think about it. The first time that there is a mistake made, whether it's on purpose or not, by someone in ICE, and you get a videotape of a family being separated and half of them being deported and kids crying and screaming, all hell is going to break loose in the meltdowns. They're going to go, see, look how horrible Donald Trump is. He's a monster. And just like January 6th, you better have a strong line of defense in front of you, Donald Trump, saying, no, you pick and choose what you're highlighting or not. You better have strong people standing in front of you, Donald Trump. The quarterback cannot win a game by himself. I don't care how great you are, Peyton Manning, or insert whatever your favorite quarterback is from all times. You cannot win by yourself. You better have people that are going to strongly and loyally stand next to you. That's why January 6th was allowed to continue on and escalate on for the liberals. It was a gift that kept feeding to them because it was Trump's own staff that was feeding that beast. So he better put people, because he's going to take a lot of heat for what he's trying to do.
No, I agree with you 100%. I think, I was listening to actually Fox this morning, and they were saying, you know what, it might actually have been a blessing that he lost in 2020, because now he's going in there with a majority in the House and the Senate. Everybody who was anti-Trump or backstabbers or people that betrayed him, came out very publicly and identified themselves. So he shouldn't commit those mistakes now, and do that. But give me 1 second, Scottie. We're going to go to a commercial break real quick. We got to pay our bills, and we'll be right back.
I'm excited to announce our Christmas extravaganza is finally here. Get this season's flannel sheets for as low as $59.98. They won't last long, so get them while you can. Our famous My Slippers, they haven't been on sale for over a year. Regularly $119.98, now only $59.98. Our 6-piece towel sets are back in stock with extremely limited quantities, only $29.98. With hundreds of MyPillow products, there's something for everyone on your Christmas list. Bathrobes, duvets, quilts, down comforters, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save on all MyPillow products. For example, flannel sheets for as low as $59.98, or our 6-piece towel sets, just $29.98. But that's not all. I'm extending our 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st of 2025. Plus, all orders over $75 or more ship absolutely free.
All right, we're back. Scottie. So, again, the winning now, I think exposed everybody. So is he going to make mistakes? Is he going to bring in Reince Priebus and establishment folks and people like that? I doubt it, right? I mean, I find it hard to believe that he's going to repeat 2016. He's not going to do that.
Like I said, everything that if you truly want to be in the Trump world, you need to be positive. Usually you like to stay positive about Trump. And so I am going to be positive. I'm going to trust the process. Yep. I understand that he's dealing with a whole wide variety of opinions and backgrounds and everything. But I'm going to say this again. You on your foreign policy were elected to bring peace to the world. And that's what when I speak to all the country, especially the day before, the day of, and the day after, every single person I talked to, from the hosts, the anchors, they all had the same, whether they were Trump fans or not, they all had the same hope. Trump is supposed to bring peace. So we're hoping that he is putting folks in his cabinet right now. Because considering all these foreign wars as of now do not have anything to do with American security. Everybody wants to see these wars, whether you're talking the Middle East or you're talking about the Russia-Ukraine conflict, they want to see them de-escalate. If you have somebody out there who is pro-escalating and throwing more money and more Western intervention in it, they do not need to be anywhere near this cabinet or Donald Trump, or else Trump will be seen as betraying those that were around him.
Well, I think if you look at Marco at State, he actually opposed the last funding round for Ukraine. So, you know, I
It's
think
the
that's
last round, but he was
yeah.
also angry. We saw where Trump was going with it. He knew that he had to get on board
Yeah.
with the Trump agenda. He might completely surprise me. I hope he does, but I will tell you, I'm here in Tennessee with Bill Haggerty, who is a senator who was up for it. I'm very good friends with Rick Grinnell, who was up for it. I have all three of those folks. I have close. I like to consider my.
And I like Rick a lot, by the way. I hope he's got to be in the cabinet. He's got to be in the cabinet in some capacity.
This was his spot, though. That was key. I was looking at him possibly for UN ambassador, if not, but we've given that to Elise.
Yep.
But once again, you can talk about Homeland Security, which is Kristi Noem. You can talk about Secretary of State, National Security Advisor. You can talk about all of those. But I can tell you, the Secretary of Defense, especially in the time we're in right now, is going to be the most important role because there will be no military deployed without the Secretary of Defense approval. So that's the one that I am holding my breath and waiting for to see before I completely question any of these choices. Now, Mike Waltz, very, very well, an amazing resume, military resume, Green Beret. A little worried about just how much neocon is in his blood.
Well, he was with 41, right? So that's the angle, right, that you're worried about.
I was, and he was. You went, and that's the other thing is you go on the list right now, and you've got. He was a part of Dick Cheney, which I get it. He was a part of his staff. There's one, and I wish on my little cheat sheet here I did not write him down because I'm hoping it was just a complete rumor. But last night, Secretary of the Treasury, maybe you could help me out with this, Ian. He was someone that actually was a former president of the George Soros Fund. I kid you not, folks. And that's when I started to go, this is too wild to have somebody saying this right now. Have you heard this one?
Yeah, I have it here. I actually have that list. The Treasury, right?
Yes, it was Treasury, and it was. I'm trying to look for it right now. Come back here.
I have them here because I actually pulled that one up too. Yeah, we have.
Because when that happened, I went, okay, maybe we're all just being set up and kind of being, sent another way so that something else can be focused on. Because that seemed just too crazy. That just seemed way, way too much out of
Yeah, Scott Bissett. Yeah, the founder of the Connecticut-based hedge fund. Yeah, Key Square Group.
Key Square Group, but more important, prior to that, he was the vice CFO of the Soros Fund.
Yeah.
No, thank you. I'm sorry. And that's the thing is that if you've been on the campaign trail like Trump was, and for the year blasting all the Soros-funded judges, blasting our foreign intervention that we've been in, blasting what was going on. And here's where Trump, I get it. He's got to walk a fine line. I am a huge fan of Israel.
Yeah.
I grew up in a Jewish home, so I am a huge fan. At the same time, you cannot, something that Trump did, he was able to resonate. And when you have Dearborn, Michigan voting for Trump, Trump has to also look and say, okay, I need to hear your voices as well. And so he has to make sure that he is listening to them and why they felt that and the voices come from the fact that they want peace in the Middle East. So he has got to figure out how to he doesn't want to do what Biden said and walk both sides, but listen to both sides. And right now, I feel like the Muslim community in America right now are feeling very silenced, like they've been betrayed. So Trump's going to have to figure out a way to at least listen to them and figure out that he picks someone that will at least go along with some of what they were hoping to get out of a Trump administration.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I just Googled Bissett real quick, and yeah, apparently he spent decades with Soros, man.
Yeah, he's not.
That's kind of fucked up. You know?
Yeah, he doesn't need to be in our treasury. And that's the one that I'm going, please tell me, like I said, Tucker Carlson, if you hear this, wherever you are, get off vacation. Come back to Mar-a-Lago. I want a list of everybody that's at Mar-a-Lago right now because I went through this in 2016. I want to know who is actually talking to Trump and advising him. He's taking a lot of Florida people.
Well, Don Jr. has said publicly that he is, all in on this process, even though they've named, heads of transition teams, but he's very much involved in the vetting process. So,
RFK and Tulsi are also in. But the question is, are they right now sitting in front of Trump and talking to him? And like I said, you look at some of these choices and I'm going, I pray these are just rumors meant to distract us. So I do not want to criticize. At the same time, they definitely, if these go into place, I think we're going to have a lot of issues from day one.
Well, there's been, you remember this, you were a surrogate too in 16, right? And, there's always a lot of rumors, and a lot of those rumors didn't end up being true. Right. So I think you're right. It could be a lot of distractions, throwing names out there, and they're really vetting somebody else, right? and
Exactly.
and he'll make those announcements because that's just the way he operates. You know, he announces himself on Twitter or on Truth, right? So
Right. And that's what I'm hoping for, and that's where the optimistic side of me is just saying sit back and wait until they're officially announced. All that we know is right now you have Elise Stefanik, UN ambassador. That's
yep,
the only. I think that was one of the last official ones. Tom Homan and Susie Wiles
yep,
and that's I think Stephen Miller. You can't get more conservative than Stephen Miller.
that's
So
right.
I don't see if Stephen Miller's sitting there, him allowing some of these to go along. So there's got to be some strategy in the room. I have enough faith and trust not only in Donald Trump but some of his advisors. I just want to see who's in the room and what their thought process is
Do you
behind
think
it.
Steve Bannon is playing a role here?
I don't know if Trump's listening to Steve Bannon or not. I know Bannon's also raised some concerns about some of these folks.
Yep.
I know, and Coulter's raised concerns. Like your traditional conservative heads are definitely pretty upset right now, and kind of wondering what is going on. But like I said, until it's officially announced, and not just people who are putting this out there for clickbait, let's just let's give the Trump the benefit of the doubt that he knows what is happening.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, so I'm going to ask you the $10 billion question, Scotty. You break this sitting down better than most people, anyways. You've been doing it for a long time. What I had our friend Rick Sanchez on yesterday, by the way. So we had a good time. I forgot to bring up the fact that I was gonna kid around with him and turn off his mic. Just as paybacks. I remember they turned off my mic that time. So I was going to do it just out of fun, but I didn't. We're friends, and we were talking about the historic shift in the Hispanic vote. And you mentioned something that was very important. That you said it was the women that were going to either elect or decide, and it's true, right? Because we saw, cheating or no cheating, we saw that elected Biden in 2020. And it elected Trump in 2016, right? When you look at the Hispanic vote, the Hispanic women shifted tremendously, like 22 points or 24 points. The men, forget about it. It was like a 30-something point shift. What do you think happened there with Hispanics? Because that was the biggest shift out of all demographics.
Well, I think it's
And I want your opinion, not as a Hispanic person, right?
Well, no, I'm looking at this as any of the other races in the country right now. I think ultimately Hispanics are probably the most solid when it comes to believing in family and community. And they started to see the Democrat principles that were coming across, especially the women, were not. And for those who've ever actually gone through the immigration process, and I'm, like I said, working internationally, I work with several of them. They were more pro-Trump than I was in lots of areas because they understand how hard they worked for that citizenship.
That's right.
And what they were escaping, why they came to America in the first place, not only economically, for their own safety. And they do not want to see the streets of America turn into the streets that they escaped. And that goes for the Muslim community, that comes from the Hispanic community. They don't want to see the drug cartels take over the United States, the sex trafficking that they ran away from, that they were in fear of when they were teenagers. So I think that is why you saw that major shift. That being said, I think Democrats have highly, highly, highly underestimated. I think they thought that Hispanics were just going to, just because they spoke the language, we love Hispanics, come across open borders, that they were just going to automatically get their vote, and they were not going to have to talk to them about community and family. And ultimately, I think that is something that makes our country so great about the diversity, is you do have cultures come in and remind us what is important when we get distracted by all these other woke issues. And I think that is where Democrats completely misjudged the Hispanic community this go around.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think it was it was an amazing shift. I always said this so I'm going to say two things. And you remember I was with Newt when he ran for president, Hispanic comms guy, and we used to talk about this. And Newt used to always say, "Man, we do such a shitty job as a party to engage minorities. We always talk about outreach versus inclusion versus letting them in versus let's have a seat at the table, share what our values are, and we're going to realize that we share more than we disagree with. And that's what we should be doing. We should be talking to them, et cetera. And, I said this, I've been saying this for a couple of years, but especially in this campaign, I said Hispanics are really, there's going to be a big shift. It's going to happen because exactly what you said. Hispanics know the dangers of the left, of socialism, of corruption, of that level of life. And they've escaped from that, right? They've ran away from that, and they can see it, they can touch it, they can smell it in the Democrat Party, and they said, no fucking way. We're not going back to that. Imagine, and going back to what Reagan said, if America goes, there's no other place to go. There's no other safe haven. But we're it. This is the last place, of safety, freedom, and pursuit of happiness and wealth and success and everything. And I think Hispanics got that. They understood that, and especially like you said, Hispanics that got here legally understood how hard it was to get here legally, and they don't appreciate having a lot of illegals flood the border. There's some rumors about 15 to 18 million illegals crossing in the last administration, right? Almost 4 years now. So it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy.
Well, and don't forget, they're obviously very pro-life. Even the women, they are obviously raised very religiously, and I think that ultimately what comes down to is they hear their mothers in their heads, their grandmothers saying that that to cherish every child and to cherish every life. So that I think really also helps influence the community, even the women, as much as the liberal left doesn't want you to believe it.
Yeah. All right. So here's the other question that I just can't understand, and I'm hoping that maybe you can help me explain. Or maybe you can explain it to me and everybody else, right? Because I just don't know the freaking answer. I'm telling you the truth. I've talked to many friends, and I was like, dude, what the fuck is going on here? And they're like, I don't know, and this and that. Jewish vote, 79% for Democrats. How is that possible? How is that even remotely possible? I figured, okay, it is so obvious. I think at this point, isn't to break 50%, or at least, down to 60, but 79%, we only got 21% of the Jewish vote. There's something not right there. Help me understand that. Can you?
I wish I could, but I find it so ironic because if you do turn on the cable news networks, the commercials that are to help the Israelis, to help the Jewish people that are in other countries that are homeless or need food, those only air on Fox News.
Yep.
Those don't air on CNN or MSNBC. Nope, they are only on Fox News and Newsmax, and They break your heart. But they know where they're going at. They know their target audience on it. I wish I could explain to you why it's. You're right. It is the $1 million question. Why do they continue? And you can't tell me they're not educated. Well, no, they're absolutely educated. Yep. They understand. They like to say, well, it's because I see the Democratic Party being the party that takes care of the poor, that fulfills, the words of the commandments that were given. And maybe in years past, decades past, you could get away with that. You can't get away with that today. You have to look at why do they continue, especially when you're looking at what's going on in Israel, when you're looking at that Trump was the one that brought around the Abraham Accords, which brought the most peace I've ever seen to the Middle East at that time.
Moved the embassy to Jerusalem. Trump. There has been no better friend to Israel than Trump. And with that said, I don't think there's been a lot of friendship out of the Biden administration, right?
Well, and the sadly part, you can't. Jews are just as they differ on whether or not they're pro-Israel or not. Some of them do believe that they should give up land. Some of them do believe that they need to be control of the country. So that's an inner turmoil that they do a much better job of masking to the outside world. But that debate does happen. So don't think it's just happening. But once again, they're very hard to change their ways. And we talk about those that are in the South that have their grandmother and their grandfather, their great-great-grandpappy, they all voted Democrat. So I'm going to vote Democrat too, until Trump came around and opened their eyes and educated them that the modern-day Democrat Party is not what their family voted for. I guess Jewish people the overwhelming Jewish community still has not had that eye-opening, that eye-awakening, and when it comes to that course. But I've had several of my Jewish friends on as well, and they're scratching their heads. That being said, there is, within the Orthodox communities and others, they still remain extremely loyal to the Republican Party and to the conservative movement.
Yep. And Sorry, I'm smoking. You know, hey, Joe Rogan smokes weed. I can have a cigarette, right? So
We're
that's
in a free country. That's the good news about Trump being elected. You don't have to worry about that.
that's right, and that's the cool thing about having a podcast versus back in the big studios. God, is media dead?
No. And like I said, this is something my degree behind me says broadcasting and journalism. Like this has been my love and passion since I was, 9.
Like you're a legitimate journalist.
People don't believe that. Somehow I got thrown into pundency. But
Yeah,
no,
I'm not a journalist. I'm nothing. I'm just I'm just a dick, right? And you know
the microphone. Don't forget the microphone.
Exactly.
No, I am.
Tell me.
And so this is my industry that I love and I have a passion for. But I've always told people to think, if you think that you don't want to go to a restaurant where the chef is skinny, you don't want to get your hair cut by someone, they come out with purple, spiked hair that's uneven. So don't think that you don't want a teacher that doesn't love kids. So people go into the media because they love what they're covering. They love news stories. They love opinions. They love conflict. They're going to have them. The question is, what has happened since, but this has always been a problem with the journal. Can they keep their opinion out of their reporting? And if they're going to give their opinion, do we have it identified? And do people get angry when you have a different opinion? Journalists have been so told that they're the ones that control the narrative, that the American people are those that just listen to them and take them for their word. And if you go against them, let's just talk about it, that if you're a conservative journalist, unless you play the game in Washington, D.C., you're not going to get invited to the White House correspondents' dinner. There's no way in Hades they're going to have you there. In fact, I think we probably just saw the last White House correspondents' dinner for the next 4 years. Remember, they canceled them under Trump every year just because the White House correspondents, they didn't feel like celebrating it. They didn't have the party for it. So the media is not dead. What this is the wake-up call, and I'm hoping that's what we're going to see. Let's just say for fun, Elon Musk buys MSNBC. How amazing would that be?
Wow.
On the same week that Alex Jones is going to be turned, supposedly the new buyers are going to come in on Wednesday, and Alex says he's going to stay online. You're looking at this, revolution coming to media, and I hope it's in a positive way. I don't see how it could get any worse. But it's going to be an eye-opening that you're going to have to go back. The problem is the American people are going to have to respond. If you just say the straight facts, then you better watch the straight facts. They better get the same ratings as someone that's going on there and spewing whatever they want to spew.
Well, it's a good point. You just brought up ratings. Mm-hmm. You look at Joe Rogan. He's got 14 million downloads a day. When Tucker was on Fox, I think his max number was about 4 million. Mm-hmm. He crushes everybody. Look at Sean Ryan right now. He's crushing it. Dan Bongino's crushing it. There's so many people who are crushing it. Back when I had my other podcast, you were on it on Battleground. We were having over 150,000 downloads a day on podcasts. We didn't even do video. We just did snippets on like Facebook or whatever just for fun, because friends were like, dude, stream it and whatever. But, the format seems to be a lot more attractive. I don't know.
It's even about ease of getting into it. Like I had the other day, my 84-year-old my 84-year-old Aunt Kate was like, "Where do I get this podcast?" We're gonna have to make it easy, just like turning on your TV for people to be able to access them. Yeah, that's gonna be the key is technology.
Well, we're gonna break for a second, one commercial break, and we'll be right back with the great Scottie Nell Hughes.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing. Including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Don't forget, use promo code IGH for those discounts and save a lot of money and get some new pillows, man. Scottie, everybody's going streaming. You know, we talked about this, in 16, you know, streaming wasn't a thing. Everybody talked about that the streaming and the cable people, they were going to intersect. Q2 2024, COVID accelerated that and flipped it. This year we saw that at the NABs that the ad revenue, there was more ad revenue committed to streaming than regular broadcast and cable. What happens? I mean, is everybody just going to go stream? I mean, who's on cable now? It's really the older audience, right? Like you were talking about.
Well, it's the ease. It's the airports. It's the sports bar lounges. It's, you know, that's still easy. It's going to be harder for them to do podcasts. So we're going to have to, like I said, the technology is going to have to develop. I think it comes down to this White House. And I think that we're seeing we've had it for the last 20 years, but it's really come down to the stranglehold that's happening on talk radio within your radios. Now, I had my nephew yesterday just bought a new truck, and I'm very proud of him for it. But my son asked him, like, okay, so are you going to get Sirius XM? He said, no. So I'm just going to stream through my phone. He's 18 years old.
Yeah.
But people still listen to the radio. And on election night, I had a girl who's 32 driving up to work. She was like, okay, who's winning? I'm like, you know, you can turn on your local talk radio station, WTN. They're doing election results. She's like, what do you mean? I'm like, okay. Talk radio has been strangled for the past few years. I still believe that we cannot let that form of media die.
Well, so Soros bought the #2 radio broadcast company in the country, right? Odyssey.
Odyssey, exactly. Well, you're looking at Clear Channel just took laid off 400 people on Friday in the talk radio world. I mean, you're seeing these cuts coming because advertisers don't want to advertise on something that could be controversial, that could get them boycotted. That's been the tale as old as time.
Well, it's also ratings, right? I mean, look at the shares for Cumulus, for iHeart, for Odyssey's Dad, Salem, all of them. Name all of them, Beasley, whoever. They're all under $1. They're all either delisted or about to be delisted. And that's a great question because I was asking you about that, and you jumped right into it. Is radio dead?
Well, and they're trying to kill it, but I think that's not a good thing because regardless of whatever happens in this world, obviously we have lots of cyber terrorism. We have all sorts of things to worry about. Yep. We need to make sure that we still have that avenue of media.
But how do they fund it? How do they fund it if they can't make money on it?
First of all, we've got to grow the talent. You and I think, talked about this 10 years ago. We were not growing the next generation of talk radio hosts. Yep. We were not growing the next Rush Limbaugh. We were not growing. So it's going to take the White House putting an emphasis back on talk radio, just like they're going to have to put an emphasis on podcast, and they're going to have to put it on the online streaming networks. In 2012, I started the Tea Party News Network. And it was one of the first ones. The only one that was with us was Breitbart, was doing their Breitbart network.
I remember that.
We were in the very beginning. Yeah. They were kind of starting. I mean, maybe you were around. I was trying to remember if I met you those first few years at CPAC. But people looked at us and kind of laughed. But below us was podcasts. They were laughing at people like, "Oh, you can't make it in talk radio." So you
remember Radio Row, and there was all these podcasters there, right? So I mean,
and so it was growing. It's taken 12 years to get to us. The key is we've got to stop tearing each other down, and we've got to understand if they get us down to a sole few, and I get it, people got to make money. People want the clicks for themselves. But if they get us down to a sole few, which is their goal, it's easier to wipe us out.
Well, here's the other question, and I totally agree with you, by the way. Mm-hmm. Where is the funding coming from? So the left has Soros, and he funds everything. Mm-hmm. Where's Soros on the right? Doesn't exist.
Yeah,
outside of Elon right now, right? That bought Twitter, saved democracy, if you want to say that, But outside of Elon Musk, he's not going to fund every single conservative venture out there. And there's a lot, and nobody can get funding anywhere. And that's a fact, by the way.
It should come from the people. And that's what I've always said. Unfortunately, liberals do a much better job of speaking of action through their pocketbook than conservatives do, mainly because we haven't had any options. Guess what? We need to actually make the choice now that we're going to support those businesses that go and buy advertisements on your local talk radio stations or on your local podcast. I mean, look at Mike Lindell. He has made, good gracious, they've come after him on so many avenues.
Yep.
But by golly, conservatives are helping keep his business alive. And guess what? If you're buying a pillow today and you're not buying from Mike Lindell,
Yeah.
shame on you.
That's right. That's
Because
exactly
not only are you
right.
getting a great product, but you're making a difference. You are making a step to keep our world going forward. That's the difference. Is conservatives are going to have to start putting their money, honestly, where their mouth is. There was a list that came out, and I sent it out to my family, and I don't know if you knew this one. I sent it out to them yesterday going, the companies that actually supported Donald Trump versus the ones that didn't. And some surprises. Walmart donated to Trump. Target did not. No surprise there.
Yeah.
Ace Hardware, Home Depot to Trump. Lowe's did not. Dillard's supported Trump. Nordstrom did not. Start putting your money shopping at these stores that support. Now we need to go to the next level. If you hear a local business being sponsored on a podcast, on talk radio, go spend your money there. And you're going to have to be convicted to do so. My husband, the biggest thing we laugh about here is that I can go and we joke about the money, our monthly budget, how I never make it. But if I've used it and can justify spending it in stores that are conservative or in our local area so that the money stays here at home, then we don't have too much of an argument over it. That's what we have to start living. We have to be convicted with our pocketbooks as much as we are with our opinions.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. But look, I've talked to so many people in so many groups, so many initiatives to try and do this. There's this group right now that's trying to save radio and et cetera, and nobody is putting out a penny, not even a penny. And look, I did a venture, it's in the process of coming back, but it has been the hardest fucking thing in my life. And every conservative group that I went to and we talked to, it's mind-boggling, Scottie. They would say, dude, I love the idea, Ivan. It's fascinating. We need it. We need something like this. But, we only invest in real estate and oil and gas. We don't know anything about media, and we don't know anything about Hispanics. I mean, I had a multi-billionaire in Kentucky. I sat in his boardroom with 3 McKinsey guys and his board for 8.5 hours and pitched the whole project. He was like, no, that can't be. McKinsey guys validated everything. After 8.5 hours, he said, look, I don't know anything about Hispanics or media. The only Hispanic people I know are the people that do, the housekeeping and landscaping. Outside of that, I don't know anyone. And, if you want to bring me like a cannabis deal or a bourbon deal, I'd probably take a look at that. But, I'm probably not your guy. And it's happened, across Dallas and, all, Texas and across the country. It's been very, very, very difficult to find your business people that are cause driven, right? That are willing to support a cause.
I 100% can agree with that. And I think that is the other side to all of this. And I'm hoping with Elon Musk bringing on Twitter, he's opened some of these investors' eyes to see what can benefit from it. Yeah. Let me tell you, I'm personally, and I'm hoping the story comes out more and more, but I'm one of at least, and you had Rick on yesterday, and I don't know how much he went into it. I'm one of about 50, and I don't consider Rick to be a conservative voice, but he's independent. There's about 50 of us that in the past 5 months leading up to the election were shut down because the federal government shut us down and shut our funding down.
Yep.
And that right there is how, freedom of the press and freedom of speech is why I've laughed at it for so long. You did. Most times you can say that you see that they bully the businesses not to support for the speech and the press that's going on. In my case, the federal government shut us down directly.
Well, he brought that up. He goes, well, it doesn't get more state-run media than CNN, right? Where you have Jen Psaki and, everybody who's, she was press secretary, right? It's pretty crazy, right? It's pretty crazy. But on that note, so what's up with Scottie Nell Hughes these days? What's next? What's happening? I love all your posts on social media. Where can everybody find you? You're like I'm not going to say the poster child for a soccer mom, because I know you love cheerleading, and it is fascinating what you've done with your girls and the cheerleading squads. Wow, just really cool shit, man.
I'm the all-American mom. I'm here in Nashville, Tennessee. I get the blessings of technology that I get to talk to cool people like you that are in important positions, but I get to do it from my living room, as you can see, with the football and the dance team and the cheer stuff in the background, because I'm like most Americans right now.
Yeah.
That has been the best revolution of Donald Trump since 2016, is that they started caring. It was no longer faux pas for women in the soccer groups to be talking about politics. And so that has been the best thing, is these women's eyes have been said, no, you can talk about controversy and we're not going to blacklist you for it. So that's kind of the perspective that I bring to it, the common sense conservative I like to call. But right now you can just find me on Twitter at Scottie and Hughes, because my YouTube channel got shut down after I reached 10,000 views by YouTube. Or 100,000 views, and then I've been shut down by the federal government for my voice thing up in Trump. I am praying that part of Trump's thing will be from day one is he lifts some of the people thought these sanctions were just against Russian spies or Indian oil gods. No, it didn't affect those countries. What it's affected is the freedoms here at home by some God-fearing Americans on both sides of the aisle. And I think once that story starts getting told, people will realize just how obstructing this Biden-Harris administration has really been to a lot of different industries.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I was on your show a lot. And there was nothing, there was no censoring going on there. There was no bullshit. There was no agenda. I mean, you said whatever the hell you wanted. Nobody handcuffed you or told you what to say. I'm a witness to that numerous times, right? So hopefully it comes back. I know you're always going to be in the limelight. You're crushing it on TikTok these days. What is your handle on TikTok so everybody can find you? I'm sure they're going to love your videos too.
It's at Hughes in the house. I absolutely adore TikTok. I'm sorry you can make it out to be a Chinese spy, but newsflash, if people want to know about your life, about your kids, about your Chinese, about your cookie recipes, they're going to figure it out. And frankly, I would much rather have a foreign government that's hundreds of miles away that could care less about me than my own government spying on me. And that's what we've seen these past few years.
And that's the truth, right? Because this government has been spying. This government has weaponized the FBI, the DOJ, the entire intel
IRS.
community. Yeah, the IRS. Jesus. Well, the IRS, that was back in 2011, 2012, right? I mean, I was one of the first people that talked about that because I got smashed with that. And I was talking to a former ambassador, under the Bush administration. I said, hey, this is going on. He goes, dude, you're crazy. You're a lunatic. You're going down rabbit holes. Don't go into these conspiracy things. And I said, I'm telling you, it's not just me. I've talked to other friends, other conservatives, and they're coming after him. And a year later, when that news broke, he called me up. He was like, just so you know, this is the first call I'm making, and I apologize. He goes, I would have never believed that our government would have weaponized itself, the IRS or its agencies to go after American citizens. And, and that's a fact. And, I mean, you're going through it now, right? So.
And I went through it back then too, under the Tea Party umbrella, and now we're going through it again. So,
well, you're going to be back. You're going to be back soon, right? So
we hope. Like I said, if you can have a network that has Rick Sanchez and me on the same one and try to say that we're a part of the same ideology, you obviously don't listen to both of us.
That's right. That's exactly right. Rick's a good guy, man. Rick's a good guy, but yeah, he's definitely no Scottie Nell Hughes. That's for sure. That's for sure.
He tries on my heels when he can, though. I'm just going to give you a little clue.
That's right. But next time I bring him on, I am going to cut his mic. I'm going to do that on purpose.
I agree with that 100%.
I had totally forgotten about that. Hey, Scottie, you're the best, man. I love you. Thanks for coming on, and hopefully you'll come on a lot. We're going to be crushing it. You can find us on Rumble. We're on YouTube, even though, let's see. I was one strike away from being canceled over there, and let's see if they cancel me now. But we'll see. And on podcasts, we're on Pandora, we're on Stitcher, we're on Amazon Music, Audible, on Spotify, on Apple, on iHeart. We're on all of them, so you can find us wherever you want. Scottie, thank you very much, and we'll see you soon. Everybody else, we'll see you tomorrow. Don't forget, if you're going to buy pillows, blankets, whatever, mattress toppers, we have them all. They're amazing. Make sure you use promo code IGH, and we'll see you tomorrow. It's going to be a kick-ass day.